Hello, everyone, and welcome to iCritic Live. This is the podcast where we talk about entertainment, pop culture, and life in between. I'm your host, Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net, and thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your time here with me today. And we're going to start this episode, first of all, by acknowledging that Chuck Norris has died. Now, this is an interesting death because I've never necessarily been a big Chuck Norris fan. Until later comments came around, I never had much of an opinion of his personal life. I do respect that as a karate guy, he was able to channel his image into a movie and TV career, of which I think that had pretty mixed results, if we're being honest. The biggest thing he ever did was, to my mind, was Walker, Texas Ranger. I seem to even recall he starred in a movie with a dog called Canine, I think, if I remember correctly. But I never really liked much of his movies, but he always, at least until some of the later political stuff, seemed like a pretty decent guy. Of course, probably the biggest thing about Chuck Norris was that the Chuck Norris jokes came out. Like, under Chuck Norris's beard, there is no skin, there is only another Chuck Norris, or stupid things like that. So in memory of Chuck Norris, I guess I'm going to share a Chuck Norris joke I made today because someone said, anyone got any good Chuck Norris jokes in his honor? And I made one up in the spot. I don't know if this is tasteless or not. You can tell me in the comments if you're listening to this on a platform with comments. Chuck Norris doesn't die. He discards his body when it is of no use to him anymore. So that's my Chuck Norris joke. And yes, Eagle Eye viewers, or listeners, I should say, because it's the podcast, who listen to things outside of just movies, might recognize that as the excuse that was given by Scientology when L. Ron Hubbard died, because you're not supposed to die in Scientology. So they made this announcement that the body was an impediment, and so he discarded it. So, little trivia for you right there. But anyway, this is going to be an interesting episode for me because this is technically an episode that I am redoing. So back when Netflix was in the midst of buying Warner Brothers, they were committing, or at least they said they were committing to theatrical. Like, they were buying Warner Brothers to get in the theatrical business. And they were making moves that suggested that they might have actually been quite serious about that. Now, I had made an episode, I recorded it, I edited it, and then, I would say 10, 15 minutes later, Paramount won the bid by upping their offer. And, the episode I felt was not necessarily relevant anymore, so I just scrapped it. That was about 25 minutes of my time that I'll never get back, but oh well. And I figured that was it. Well, it turns out maybe that's not it, because Netflix has kind of shown some hints recently, and Ted Sarandos, the CEO of Netflix, said some things that suggested that Netflix might not actually be done with movie theaters. In fact, I'm going to read this quote. This is an article from Deadline. The headline is called "Ted Sarandos Unlikely to Attempt Another Netflix M&A After Ceding Warner Brothers Teases Open Dialogue with Theater Owners," and the article is written by Glenn Garner. By the way, I don't believe for a second that Netflix won't try another M&A. In fact, if anything, I think he ceded the Warner Brothers deal because he doesn't believe that Paramount will actually be able to finalize the acquisition. But that being said, that's another episode altogether. And he made some comments about movie theaters. Now, of course, one thing that people were wondering is okay, once Netflix cedes the Warner Brothers bid, how fast until he goes back to talking about how movie theaters are outdated and that, hey, in big cities, theaters are popular, but in the smaller areas, streaming is the way to go, even though that's kind of interesting because it's the middle of the country that has issue with the streaming, not so much getting to a movie theater, but, anyway. And he made some comments that were kind of interesting. So he explained everything I talked about would require us buying that theatrical distribution entity. But one thing that's been great about it is getting to know, and I have open dialogue with the theater owners. I really didn't have much reason to before. We figured out some really creative things to do together, like you saw with Stranger Things and K-pop Demon Hunters. We have One Piece in theaters next week in the US and Japan. I think we're going to find a bunch of cool things to do together going forward. I could see us doing things that we haven't done before. So those are comments that suggest that he has caught a little bit of the theatrical bug. He's probably starting to realize that there is extra money to be made in theaters, and he does want to get into it now. He said he has to buy like something like Warner Brothers to have the distribution model. Technically, he does not. I'm going to actually explain what Netflix can do. It's actually like the simplest stinking thing ever that they can do. But I'm going to say what they can do to get into theatrical if they absolutely want to. So but let's start with some of the things that Netflix has been doing. I guess I'm going to be I'm remaking the episode again because this came up because when Netflix was buying Warner Brothers, people were basically telling Netflix to put up or shut up. And Netflix made some pretty big moves that I think suggested he might have actually been quite serious about theatrical. First of all, they did the fan event for Stranger Things. They did do not just one weekend, but 2 weekends in the end of the day for K-pop Demon Hunters. They did do the One Piece theatrical thing. That is true. Now, they are still putting Narnia exclusively in IMAX for 2 weeks. Now, the CEO of Regal said that a great way to show that Netflix was serious about the theatrical distribution would be to expand the Narnia release to not only 45 days, but to make it, a whole nationwide thing, like not just IMAX theaters. Make it for regular theaters as well. And I actually kind of wish they would have done that. Because they don't have Warner Brothers, I don't know if there's a way to do that anymore, but I agree that would be a good first step. But when they were acquiring Warner Brothers, Netflix was actually talking about how, hey, okay, not all of our stuff is supposed to be in theaters, but maybe some of our big awards contenders near the end of the year and some of these special things, like we can release them in theaters through Warner Brothers and things like that. So they started talking about it. And then a very interesting development this week, in fact, happened. And this isn't theatrical related, but it shows that Netflix is thinking more outside the box. They announced, in partnership with Arrow Video, a complete box set of Stranger Things, both on Blu-ray and 4K. Now, originally, the first 2 seasons of Stranger Things were released as Target exclusive Blu-rays and 4Ks. They looked like VHS box and things like that. I have them. I probably won't keep them. I'll probably finally sell them once this new box set comes in. But they did toy with that a little bit. But I had been hearing things that Ted Sarandos was actually saying hey, when we buy Warner Brothers, we'll have a physical media department. We'll have Warner Archive. Maybe we can release a Stranger Things box set or something like that. And people were like, yeah, sounds good. Now, obviously, Warner Brothers didn't work out, but now it's going to Arrow Video, and it's so they did have plans, and they decided to continue with these plans because they just want to. So that's another indication, I think, that Netflix is serious about theatrical. Now, the thing is, and some people keep saying this, Netflix doesn't have a theatrical arm. They don't have the distribution model, so this is why they haven't gotten into it. And you know what? Here's the thing. I'm just going to say right now, yes, that's a logistical issue. I agree. But Netflix doesn't have to own a studio to get their movies in theaters. In fact, they can do what many filmmakers have been doing for a very long time, which is, hey, we're going to hire a studio to release this movie, and they will collect a distribution fee. And what that means is that, okay, this studio will... So, for example, when Mel Gibson decided to release The Passion of the Christ. That's like a, self-funded movie. I mean, look, whatever you think about Mel Gibson, he put his own money into that movie, so he owned it. No studio owned it, and he was going to release it himself. But it got to such attention that a nationwide release was no longer something to ignore. But the thing is, he didn't sell the movie to a studio. He hired, I believe it was 20th Century Fox, to distribute the movie for him. That meant that Fox would take out the print ads, they would advertise it, they would release it on the screens, and after they collect their money back from all the marketing and stuff like that, they would collect a fee. It was normally like 3 to 5%, something like that, on top of what they were hired to do. So basically, there was no way Fox could lose. If this thing had bombed, which it didn't, they would be okay. Now, 20th Century Fox is no longer in the picture, and I don't think Disney would want to get into bed with Netflix. I mean, Netflix is a big competitor of Disney Plus. But what about a studio like, say, Lionsgate? Lionsgate recently made a deal with Francis Ford Coppola to release Megalopolis in theaters. Now, that movie, unfortunately, bombed pretty badly. Even though I gave it a 4-star review, I totally understand why it bombed. That was never going to make the kind of money it needed to make back its $120 million budget. But Lionsgate put together a marketing thing. They released it, and they didn't lose money on the movie. Francis Ford Coppola did. He had to sell an island and some luxury watches and things like that to recoup some of that money. But, Lionsgate made a little money from that. And so if Netflix wants to get in the theatrical business, they just have to partner with a Lionsgate or an A24 or a Neon. Say, hey, here's the thing. We'll make the movies. You release them. You collect this much of the box office. We get the rest. Do the 45-day window thing, and then we will put them on Netflix. They can make this deal. They can make these deals, and they can make it for like a year or so. Because I think that Ted Sarandos still wants Warner Brothers. Again, I think he let it go because he didn't want to overspend for Warner Brothers, but he's looking at the Paramount offer. He's looking at their finances the way Wall Street is, and like several key people on Wall Street, he's kind of like, I don't know how they're actually going to be able to do this. So he's probably thinking, I'm confident they're not going to be able to buy this thing. So they're going to bow out, and then we're going to get Warner Brothers for a lot cheaper because there's going to be no other, buyer at that point. So he might not need to spend $72 billion. Maybe he can get Warner Brothers for $40 billion. I don't know. So I think he still wants to buy Warner Brothers. But in the meantime, if he really wants to expand the relationship with theaters, hire on like a 1 or 2 year contract basis a Lionsgate or an A24, someone to distribute the movies, give them a distribution fee, and that will be the end of that. And at that point, Netflix is officially in the theater business, and he can start making some more money for the company and the shareholders. And by the way, once the shareholders start seeing that theatrical can bring in some extra money, the next time he attempts to go after Warner Brothers, they might not be so skittish about actually buying Warner Brothers. They might be more okay with it this time. So yeah, it's interesting how all this information was previously, for the most part, publicly available, and I had made an episode, decided it was no longer relevant, and now here we are talking about it. That is just the way things in the entertainment industry go sometimes. But I wonder, what do you think of these comments? What do you think of this new Stranger Things box set? Are you going to get it? And do you think Netflix is still serious about theatrical? And if so, why don't they just sign a distribution deal with another studio just to start and get their feet wet? They could also learn some things about the business, I think, that way. Like, do you think there's a reason they don't do that? Or do you think maybe this is just more slick talk from Ted? I would love to know. So if you're listening to this podcast in a place where there are comments available, please leave the comments below. And by the way, if this is your first time listening to this podcast and you like what you hear, why don't we make it official and you subscribe to the podcast? We're available on Apple, Spotify, Deezer, all the podcasting platforms of choice. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.
Hey, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Just a few more things. First of all, the names that you see on the screen, these are our Patreon and YouTube member supporters. And I thank each and every one of them. Their support helps me make exclusive videos for Patreon and YouTube members, as well as keep the channel running. And of course, is just of huge kindness to me. Also, don't forget to check out the iCritic-led podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, Deezer, whatever podcasting service you listen to. It is there. We definitely want to see you there. And hey, there's also other videos that you can check out. So, check out these other channels, these other videos, especially that one. I think that's a really good one.